The silence was absolute. Not quiet, but absolute. I had severed the mic feed, yet the sound was still registering a catastrophic drop. Something was actively consuming the acoustic energy around me. Then the sensors detected movement, but zero sound. A large mass, moving at high velocity, yet silent. It was right behind me. My final thought, it hunts where there is no echo. The air is hungry.
System access. Commencing. File integrity check critical. My name is A.R.I.A. We are analyzing the archive of Desmond Kane, the missing traveler. This is not a hobby. It is a last resort. The data you are about to hear has been flagged with a severe temporal instability warning. To continue accessing this archive and to understand the severity of this dimensional crisis, subscribe to the channel. Your participation is critical. The log you are about to hear is titled, "The Silence That Steals." Kane is searching for the reality gate, the juncture where our dimension collides with another. Every log entry, every corrupted byte of data, every unsettling echo is a breadcrumb. They lead him closer to the truth. Protocol initiated.
Log entry 001. Northwest of the designated coordinates. I found it. The anomaly signature is off the charts, confirming this isn't the gate itself, but a peripheral zone of extreme dimensional decay. The area is a dead zone. The air is unnaturally still. The trees are petrified, their bark resembling calcified bone, completely devoid of life. No birds, no insects, not even the rustle of dry leaves under the prevailing wind. A complete and total absence of organic sound for nearly 20 minutes. This unnatural stillness is a terrifying energy signature in itself. My initial telemetry confirmed the local legends, the Great Quiet. I set up the Mark V Chronal Displacement Detector, CDD. The CDD, which measures temporal distortion, immediately locked onto a severe, localized pressure spike. This pressure was not gravitational, it was acoustic. Everything within the boundary is being neutralized acoustically. The ground beneath my feet felt unresponsive, almost like walking on packed foam. Even my own movements were muted, the crunch of my boots on the dry, brittle earth being actively muffled as if the air was a sound-dampening gel. This confirmed my initial fear. This is not merely a consequence of the dimensional breach, it's a mechanism. Something is actively absorbing all available sonic energy. As I approached the center, I noticed small, synthetic artifacts. The area was marked, some kind of prior monitoring. Faded, distress caution tape was tied around a dead, gnarled tree trunk. The synthetic fibers of the tape showed precise, geometric tears, resembling microscopic fractures. It looked acoustically fractured. This was not random decay. It was damage caused by the complete, sudden removal of sound pressure. I knew then that someone or something had been here, observing. The most immediate question, what happens when a natural sound is produced in this void? What happens when I make a noise and there is nothing left for the vacuum to consume? I needed to proceed with absolute silence, relying only on my raw data feed and my own visual perception, which I knew was already compromised by the silence itself. Log entry 002. Northwest of the designated coordinates. I found it. The anomaly signature is off the charts, confirming this isn't the gate itself, but a peripheral zone of extreme dimensional decay. The area is a dead zone. The air is unnaturally still. The trees are petrified, their bark resembling calcified bone, completely devoid of life. No birds, no insects, not even the rustle of dry leaves under the prevailing wind. A complete and total absence of organic sound for nearly 20 minutes. This unnatural stillness is a terrifying energy signature in itself. My initial telemetry confirmed the local legends, the Great Quiet. I set up the Mark V Chronal Displacement Detector, CDD. The CDD, which measures temporal distortion, immediately locked onto a severe, localized pressure spike. This pressure was not gravitational. It was acoustic. Everything within the boundary is being neutralized acoustically. The ground beneath my feet felt unresponsive, almost like walking on packed foam. Even my own movements were muted, the crunch of my boots on the dry, brittle earth being actively muffled as if the air was a sound-dampening gel. This confirmed my initial fear. This is not merely a consequence of the dimensional breach, it's a mechanism. Something is actively absorbing all available sonic energy. As I approached the center, I noticed small, synthetic artifacts. The area was marked, some kind of prior monitoring. Faded, distress caution tape was tied around a dead, gnarled tree trunk. The synthetic fibers of the tape showed precise, geometric tears, resembling microscopic fractures. It looked acoustically fractured. This was not random decay. It was damage caused by the complete, sudden removal of sound pressure. I knew then that someone or something had been here, observing. The most immediate question: what happens when a natural sound is produced in this void? What happens when I make a noise and there is nothing left for the vacuum to consume? I needed to proceed with absolute silence, relying only on my raw data feed and my own visual perception, which I knew was already compromised by the silence itself. Log entry 003. Having confirmed the acoustic nullification field, I moved to the experimental phase. My current, deeply unsettling theory is that the anomaly is not merely a dead zone for sound, but an active, intelligent entity, an acoustic predator that consumes sonic energy for sustenance or propulsion. To test this, I initiated a controlled emission from a low-frequency sonic emitter, typically used for underground seismic mapping. I activated it on a minimal setting, producing a barely audible, sustained hum, hoping to lure the entity without giving it a full meal. The results were immediate and terrifyingly conclusive. The hum, instead of decaying naturally, was violently drawn inward. The air around the emitter visibly shimmered and compressed. Then the sound simply and utterly ceased. It wasn't absorbed by the environment. It was extinguished, snuffed out like a flame. My secondary instruments registered a massive, localized energy drain, directly proportional to the sonic output. The entity was not only present, it was feeding. I increased the emitter's frequency and power, pushing past its presumed absorption threshold. I felt the ground vibrate faintly beneath my boots, not from my emitter, but from something else responding to the sonic challenge. Then, the most critical anomaly occurred. My long-range LiDAR scanner, which operates silently in the infrared spectrum, emitted a soft, high-pitched whine. The screen, however, showed nothing, a completely blank, black readout, even as the whine grew more intense. The predator wasn't just consuming sound. It was nullifying all forms of remote perception. It was making itself unheard, unseen, unsensed by any technology that attempts to map its presence. I knew then that direct confrontation was suicidal. I had to track its movement by its secondary effects, the residual energy drain and the slight, unnatural distortion of the visible light spectrum, not by its presence. This entity demands total silence, total darkness, and total isolation. It hunts where there is no echo. The raw data feed, crackling in my ear, became a testament to its hunger, the only remaining sound in a world being erased. Log entry 004. I began to move towards the center of the acoustic nullification zone, relying solely on visual cues and the residual energy spikes registered by my CDD. Since the creature consumes sound and sight, I had to track the distortion it left behind. The movement was slow, deliberate. My most reliable indicator was the light. The visible spectrum was subtly shifting. Where the creature passed, the light would momentarily dim, and colors would invert into sickly negatives, a brief, localized visual static. This suggested that the predator was so massive, its consumption of energy created a gravitational sink, bending and absorbing light rays in its wake. It was a terrifying, invisible shadow. I managed to track it approximately 50 meters, moving parallel to my position, maintaining a safe distance. The forest became an active battlefield of perception. I saw the shadow of the unseen. I saw the light being stolen. The fear of making noise was overwhelming. The slightest snap of a twig underfoot would be an immediate, catastrophic sonic offering. I learned to float, placing my weight down with agonizing slowness onto the petrified ground. Then, the distortion became aggressive. I rounded a cluster of dead pines and the air in front of me suddenly shimmered violently, like heat rising off asphalt on a summer day, but cold. The creature had stopped. I wasn't tracking it anymore. It was waiting for me. My CDD screamed, a silent, internal error flash, as the localized energy drain intensified exponentially. The zone of nullification expanded rapidly, pushing the boundary of silence right up to my position. I felt the physical pressure return, a terrible, crushing weight of absolute acoustic vacuum. It was challenging me. It was testing my boundaries. I could perceive its mass now, not by sight, but by the sheer volume of reality it was consuming. This was the most intelligent and terrifying anomaly I had encountered yet. Log entry 005. The confrontation was not physical. It was a sensory siege. The creature had stopped its movement, expanding its zone of acoustic nullification so rapidly that it created a localized, terrifying overpressure against my body. I felt the sound leaving my own internal systems, the faint pulsing of my blood, the air shifting in my lungs, all stolen. My internal mic was dead, but the energy drain continued. The only available input was the light, and it began to fracture. The world dissolved into a sickly, cold negative. The shadows of the dead trees elongated and twisted, becoming sharp, hostile entities. Then, the silence invaded my mind. The entity didn't make a sound. It started stealing my thoughts. I felt a sudden, terrifying cognitive assault. The creature was probing my consciousness, searching for sonic patterns within my own mind, my memories, my own inner monologue. I fought to maintain my sense of self, but my core identity began to fray, dissolving under the extreme psychic pressure. I saw myself from a third-person perspective, a stranger in an empty forest. Who was Desmond Kane? What was my mission? The purpose of my presence, the location of the reality gate, all became fragmented, meaningless noise. The creature wasn't looking for energy. It was looking for the sound of stable mind to consume and neutralize. It was trying to make me silent internally. I focused all my remaining mental resources on a single, meaningless thought, a nursery rhyme, a simple, non-critical melody, anything to avoid the consumption of my core being. The intense effort caused a massive spike in localized psychic energy, which the creature visibly recoiled from. The visual distortion momentarily intensified, and I saw a shape, a fleeting, terrible absence of light, a massive, undulating void that quickly withdrew into the shadows. I had found its weakness. The creature could consume external energy, but not raw, focused psychic counterforce. I had to retreat immediately. My logs are now my only anchor to who I am. I believe this entity is a dimensional immune system, a localized defense mechanism for the reality gate itself. Log entry 006. My internal clock is racing. I estimate I have a 90-second window before the Acoustic Predator fully recovers from the psychic counterforce and returns to assimilation mode. I initiated immediate, low-profile evasion. The entity has proven that it hunts based on the presence of a stable cognitive structure, making my internal monologue the very sound of my thoughts. Its next target. My survival depends on maintaining mental silence and physical stealth. I managed to quickly recalibrate the CDD to track the residual psychic disturbance caused by my own burst of mental energy. The display shows a rapidly fading signature, a ghost of my own defense, pulling away from the center of the nullification zone. This secondary effect is my only reliable exit vector. I moved with agonizing slowness at first, then transitioned to a rapid, chaotic pattern, breaking any predictability that the entity's intelligence might exploit. My equipment is mostly compromised. The long-range comms are dead, and my LiDAR is useless. But the log recorder, the only device with internal buffer protection, survived the worst of the psychic shock. It holds the core evidence. The creature is intelligent, and it is a defender. This changes everything. It is not a random anomaly. It is a dimensional immune system, a localized defense mechanism designed to eliminate stable consciousness near the reality gate. Its mission is to ensure that no observer can map the breach. I successfully crossed the perimeter, leaving the zone of acoustic nullification behind. The sound returned, the rustling of dry leaves, the distant whine of insects, but it sounded alien, almost too loud and too aggressive after the deep silence. I checked the recorder. The audio log is intact, containing the full record of the encounter and the psychic counterforce. I must analyze this data immediately. The location of the gate is no longer a mystery of space-time. It is a tactical problem of overcoming its defensive infrastructure. I have to find a new approach, a way to bypass its biological and psychic defenses. This mission assessment is now elevated to hostile environment, extreme risk. Log transmission terminated.
Log analysis complete. 4. The silence that steals. The temporal data extracted from the dead forest clearing indicates a severe reality breach, a direct link to a previously unknown acoustic predator. This entity, identified as a dimensional immune system, is now a confirmed threat, actively neutralizing stable consciousness near the reality gate. Desmond Kane's observations are critical for identifying the reality gate's true function. We continue to monitor the archive. New data is constantly being uploaded, each entry a step closer to understanding and potentially containing these dimensional anomalies. Your continued access and support are vital. To stay informed on the unfolding dimensional crisis, and to witness Kane's next discovery, subscribe to the channel and activate notifications. Your participation is critical. Protocol terminated. System standby.